This is the Tree of Life, Season 14, Chapter 5. In this episode, we will be talking about the stability of a particular arrangement of a 5-person structure, as explored in the last episode. Since we know that the scale of negation refers to the length of time associated with negation, and we know that the scale of negation determines whether negation leads to infinite recursion. Since we know infinite recursion is caused by the scale of negation generating a level of convolution, which results in a secondary intersection between two persons, we can say that the scale of negation is a measurable quality of the stability of a particular arrangement within a structure. Likewise, we saw that the longer the scale of negation, the more likely it is to implicate a deeper order of bodily rhythm or cycle during these convoluted paths. This means that the scale of negation determines whether a structural adjustment is necessary to produce a phase shift corresponding to a particular cycle. It also follows that since structures describe intersections, the occurrence of a secondary intersection between the same two people, within the context of infinite recursion, would result in the displacement of the phase corresponding to the originating negated impulse. Now, we can imagine that the stability of an arrangement is described by the time frame associated with the coincident affirmation of impulse 1 and negation of impulse 2. Since we see that the duration of negation for any one impulse is linked to the duration of affirmation for some dialectical impulse, this means that the termination of affirmation through expression can just as easily flip the phase as can termination of negation by way of structural adjustment. Thus, it becomes clear that it is through the pairing of negation with respect to one impulse that we attain delayed gratification with respect to some dialectical impulse, and vice versa, meaning that we can negate one impulse through affirmation of a dialectical one. From this, we see that infinite recursion is a reflection of the migration of negation through structures corresponding to distinct phases of longer rhythms or cycles. Now, we also see that negation generates sublimating verbalizations at the conclusion of a substitution event. These verbalizations elongate the phase associated with a particular bodily rhythm. I would suggest in the descent of negation into infinite recursion, created by some initial impulse, we see the implication of deeper and deeper rhythms or cycles through increasingly convoluted paths. This makes sense since it is as if the body has experienced those paths inclusive of the congruent time frame, regardless of the initial scale of negation. This tells us that these verbalizations enhance the stability of the structure corresponding to the originating negated impulse. Since we saw that dialectical impulses produce exclusive word associations, we can see that there is a feedback loop between the resulting word associations and the structure. We must imagine that word associations are a distinct medium to structures themselves, but are somehow connected to the stability of the structure. Rather like ions which erode the stability of some chemical lattice. We can imagine that a scale could be developed to interpret this ability to erode the stability of a structure very much like pH reflects the same with respect to ions. That's the end of the podcast for today.